Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu at the White House regarding a peace deal. President Trump is working on a peace plan for Gaza, which he earlier presented to the leaders of Arab Islamic nations. He is optimistic about the prospects of the deal. Now, this comes as families of the Israeli hostages have written a letter to Trump urging him to help return all 48 hostages to their homes. Now, in the letter, they've also stated that President Trump's approach to the war is in stark contrast to Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu's, who has expanded the offensive on the ground in Gaza. Now, the families have also urged everyone to be united with one message, that is to release the hostages now. Previously, Hamas stated that they lost contact with 2 of the hostages due to Israeli strikes and have urged the IDF to stop the strikes and withdraw from certain areas. Now, the families fear that the offensive may put the lives of the hostages in further danger. Meanwhile, the global Sumud flotilla has resumed its journey to Gaza after pausing in Greek waters for repairs. The flotilla, made up of about at least 47 civilian boats, now includes Greek vessels and activists from multiple countries. Swedish climate campaigner Greta Thunberg, along with around 40 Italians, is also on board the flotilla. Listen in to what a few flotilla members who are determined to send aid to Gaza have to say.
We are very happy because yesterday we joined the rest of the boats coming from Italy, Spain and Tunisia, and we united as one common fleet of 44 ships. Our next destination is Gaza. Our mission is to break the illegal Israeli siege and create a people's humanitarian corridor. We rise to end the genocide of the Palestinian people. We sail against the complicity of our countries. Demand safe passage for our vessels, because no one is free until we are all free. All eyes on Gaza, all eyes on the fleet.
Our common cause here is to break the siege of Gaza and to contribute to the Palestinian struggle. We urge all people to follow us, to keep an eye on us, and help Palestinians finally achieve their liberation.
Last Wednesday, the flotilla was hit in international waters off the Greek island of Gavdos by drones carrying stun grenades and itching powder. However, no one was injured, but the vessels suffered some damage. The global Sumud flotilla blamed Israel, which did not respond but stated that it will use any means to block access to Gaza. Meanwhile, Italy's Foreign Minister Antonio Tajani has warned of the risks of approaching Israeli waters, proposing that aid could be taken to Cyprus for distribution to Gaza. Additionally, Italy and Spain have deployed Navy ships near the flotilla for humanitarian support, while Greece has guaranteed safe passage through its waters. Organizers expect the flotilla to arrive in Gaza early next week. With us on the broadcast is Eileen Levy, former spokesperson for the State of Israel, joining us from Tel Aviv. Thank you for taking our time speaking to us on NewsX World. At the outset, I would like to ask you about the crucial talks that are set to take place between Trump and Netanyahu. The Trump administration has drafted a 21-point proposal for ending the war. The plan includes the disarmament of Hamas, establishing an international security force, and a development roadmap to rebuild Gaza. But it also leaves the door open for a Palestinian state. In your assessment, how is Israel receiving this plan?
This deal that President Trump is proposing is far from perfect, but if implemented, it gives Israel both of its goals in this war that Hamas started. All of the hostages come back immediately, and Hamas is dismantled. So we need global pressure now on Hamas to accept this deal. The deal basically says Hamas must dismantle itself, and if not, Israel will continue the military campaign to dismantle Hamas's terrorist army. So it cannot launch another October 7th massacre and cannot attack Israel again. So I think Israel is likely to accept this deal. It's working closely together with President Trump. It removes Hamas from power. It brings back those hostages. And we need pressure on Hamas and its patrons, specifically Qatar, to make sure they accept this deal and finally end the war they started 2 years ago.
And speaking of Hamas, some analysts argue that isolating Hamas has failed and they've called for engagement. Meanwhile, others say that even if Hamas is dislodged militarily, but no stable alternative is installed in Gaza, we could see the re-emergence of something even more radical. What is your response to such arguments?
Hamas has never been more isolated than it is now. When it launched this war nearly 2 years ago, the UN didn't condemn it. The UN didn't call for the hostages to be released. The UN didn't demand Hamas relinquish power. It's doing that now. Even Arab nations are telling Hamas it's game over. You have to free the hostages. You have to end this war you started. There is pretty much international unanimity that the war Hamas started must end with Hamas removed from power. So now we need pressure on Hamas to accept that, to concede defeat, to leave the stage and free the hostages. But you're right, we have to make sure that after this war, we don't end up with just another terror organization. That is why it is important that we have not only the demilitarization of Gaza, but also the de-radicalization of the population. And the ideology, the jihadi Islamist ideology that led people to celebrate the October 7th massacre, to support Hamas's atrocities, that has to go away. That has to be removed, or we will only have more violence coming from Gaza in future. So this war has to end not only with the destruction of Hamas and the demilitarization of Gaza, but also with de-radicalization, so we can open the page to a future of peace and prosperity in the region.
At the same time, Trump has also expressed that he will not allow Netanyahu to annex the West Bank. Now, in your assessment, will Donald Trump walk the talk, or has this statement merely been made to assuage the concerns of America's Arab Gulf allies, especially after the airstrike in Doha?
I think Israel's priority right now is to end the war that Hamas started nearly 2 years ago. Let's remember, this is the longest war in Israel's history. And it's not just with Gaza. This is a regional war by the Iranian axis against Israel that has seen us attacked on 7 fronts. Just last night, we had a ballistic missile attack from Yemen. The siren sounded at 1 a.m. Millions of people, including me, had to run for shelter in the middle of the night because we came under attack from Yemen. Israel wants to end this war, and this war needs to end with all the hostages home and with Hamas removed from power, so it cannot launch another war at a time of its choosing. And I think if President Trump puts on the table a realistic proposal to get all the hostages home and to end this war, that is Israel's priority right now.
And speaking of ending the war, there's a lot of speculation regarding post-war Gaza as to who would govern it and how they do so. From your perspective, what viable long-term strategies can Israel pursue that address its core security concerns?
Gaza, after this war, needs to be placed under an international trusteeship. We need an international mechanism to govern Gaza, de-radicalize it, and put in place the conditions for sustainable peace and prosperity. If elections were held in the Palestinian Authority now, Hamas would win. Hamas would win a landslide. So there's no point having elections immediately just to let Hamas in through the back door. You need an international authority that will de-radicalize the population so it's ready for a future of peace with Israel. And included in that, you're going to need Israeli security control as well to make sure that Hamas cannot rebuild its terrorist army, or other terrorist groups cannot rebuild their forces and the tunnels and the missiles in order to launch another war against Israel. And I hope if this war ends with the people of Gaza understanding that it was a mistake to launch this war in the first place, that this vision of a forever jihad against Israel has brought disaster on them, then we'll be able to turn a leaf towards a future of peace and prosperity, but it's going to need an international trusteeship for that to happen.